so rich and creamy and flavorful. I hesitated to make this one because it actually asked for you to make it the night before and bake it the next day, which seemed like a lot to ask. But then I found it in like every cookbook that I went through. Seriously, it was almost as popular as tuna casserole. Every single vintage cookbook I went through had a version of Viva la Chicken Casserole.
Viva la chicken, viva la chicken, creamy and dreamy, can't help but dig in.
And it's definitely the most expensive casserole I'm making this week, but that's because it is packed with a ton of meat and a whole pound of cheese. So it's definitely more filling than some of the rice-filled casseroles, so it goes a lot farther. If you're curious, I'll break down the cost for you at the end, so stick around for that. But how's it made? I'll show you. There's very little prep outside of chopping the chicken into bite-sized pieces and mixing the sauce ingredients together. The sauce is made by blending a can of cream of chicken soup and a can of cream of mushroom soup, milk, green salsa, and diced onions. Mix that together really well, then set it aside while we start assembling the layers. Butter your casserole before you start, and then add a bit of water to the pan. Then layer the bottom with half of the corn tortillas that you've cut into strips. Cover that with half the chicken, half the sauce. Make sure it's nice and even and level, and then do it again. Tortillas, chicken, and sauce. Top that all with cheese, and you're done. I will say it would be even tastier if you put half the cheese in the middle instead of all of it on top. Up to you though. Time to put it in the fridge. The recipe actually says it should be in the fridge for 24 hours, but overnight is plenty. Then it's time to bake. 90 minutes later, you have a decadent, creamy, delicious casserole ready to enjoy. It's so flavorful and rich with just the right amount of spice and crunch. The total cost it took me was $22.44. The cost will vary pretty dramatically depending on how you source the chicken, but that's only $2.81 a portion. That's pretty cheap, even if you add a side or two. And it's super family friendly because it's really easy to control the spice level, and it's packed with way more protein than you would normally find in casseroles. And even though you do need to make it the night before, it's actually really easy to have no work at all the next day. I even think it would be delicious in a crock pot, which means it would be extra easy. Gretchen Mueller was sweet enough to share this recipe in the vintage community cookbook Norris Choir Sister City project, and I am so glad she did. I hope it inspires you to save more vintage community cookbooks and cook more old recipes.
Viva la chicken, viva la chicken, creamy and dreamy, can't help but dig in.